Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing part 4 of our beginner's guide to makeup. Today we're going to be focusing on blush, bronzer, contour, and highlight. I do already have my face makeup on. I'm currently testing the e.l.f. Camo CC Cream, so if you're interested in that, I will link that video for you above and below. So let's just go ahead and jump right into this. So let's first talk about highlighting, because we're not only going to be focusing on the placement of our concealer, we're also going to be focusing on actual highlighting powder or product, if you will. So let me go ahead and grab my concealer. I'm going to be using my Maybelline Instant Age Rewind in Cool Ivory. So on this side, I'm going to be kind of doing the don'ts, and on this side I'm going to do the recommended process. Now, if you do your face the way that I'm doing on this side, my quote-unquote don'ts, go for it. You do you. I think makeup is subjective. It's what you want it to be. If you feel like your face looks great at the end of the day, however you do your makeup, wear it. It's just makeup. It washes off. I am, just for the purpose of this video, going to be showing you the tips I feel look the best, or that I feel work the best, even just for me. So you may end up playing with makeup on your own and on your face shape and your bone structure. Find that you like something different. That's totally okay. That's what makeup's all about. It's finding what works best for you. So again, this is just kind of the recommended don'ts and the do's that I think will make your face look a little more natural. So again, we're going to jump in with highlighting. So I have my concealer. A lot of times on YouTube, you'll kind of see this as far as highlighting. Now, when you think about highlighting, you have to think about whatever you highlight is going to grab the light. Highlighting is going to bring those places on your face forward. It's going to draw attention to those certain places. So a lot of times you'll see people on YouTube do the triangle under their eyes. They'll place concealer up here, a little on their chin, and some along their jawline, which is going to coincide with the contour we're going to do here in a minute. Okay, so let me blend that out, and then I will show you what that looks like. Now, as I'm blending this out, something I want to mention is that because I have placed so much highlighter here, I'm having to find a spot for it. I am trying to blend it out, but it is in fact going a long way. So I am bringing a lot of that highlighter down onto my cheek. And then again for the forehead, I have to find somewhere to put the product. So I am just blending it all over my forehead. So there we have that side. Now this side, you can see I've already placed some highlighter or concealer to highlight. I've placed a little bit on my Cupid's bow. Okay, I've also placed a little bit on the bridge of my nose, because I am going to work with bronzer and contour to slender my nose. And then probably the biggest difference as to doing that huge triangle on this side is on this side with my concealer, I've placed a little bit on the inner corner, because I do want to cover the purple that I tend to have in this area. And then I've also put a little bit here, and as I blend it out, I'm going to continue blending it up so that it lifts my eye naturally with the light. So let me blend that out. Okay, I don't know if you're able to tell as big of a difference as I am, just because my face is so pale overall, but in looking at the concealer on this side, the brightness has been lifted up with the placement of the concealer, so that when I look at my face, my attention is brought up. Whereas on this side, because there's so much lightness down here, it kind of brings my face down to where the brightness is. So when you're thinking about adding highlighter, and again, right now we're talking about concealer, which even in highlighter in general, if you're going to be using a actual highlighter, the brightness is going to attract, and you want to naturally lift your face. So without having to add a lot of darkness or contrast, think in terms of your highlight, whether that's a highlighting product or a concealer, to lift. So as you can see, again, we've got a lot of this brightness down here. My entire forehead is brightened, whereas on this side, we've really concentrated the concealer and therefore really focused where the eye is going to look at. And then here in a little bit, we'll come back to a powder highlight, and I'll talk about that as well. Next, we're going to talk about blush. So the first thing we're going to focus on is placement. So when it comes to the placement of blush, we tend to see people place it in kind of 3 different ways. Either they focus it mainly on their cheek, they focus it mainly on their cheekbones, or kind of a combination of both. Again, this is going to be determined on what you like. So let's kind of play around with that. One of the ways we previously used to see a lot of people apply blush, especially on YouTube, was using the tip of smiling and then kind of placing your blush in that fashion. That's really not the tip or trick to use anymore, because we found that when you smile and you place your blush, first of all, that will allow the blush to kind of sink down into your wrinkles. And also, if I place my blush here when I'm smiling and then I stop smiling, the blush has now dropped. So I'm not getting an accurate placement of the blush if I do it while I'm smiling, because once I finish smiling, my cheeks drop. So you really do want to just apply your blush looking kind of, I won't say not happy, but don't smile, you know, just your natural relaxed face. Now, something else to think about is what type of blush you want to use. Here I have this palette from Milani, and I just wanted to show you these 3 examples. In this palette I have a matte blush, which has no shimmer, no glitter, no anything. I have a blush that is more satin, which means it has just a little bit of sheen to it, nothing too extreme. And then I have a blush that is shimmery, meaning that when it catches the light, it is going to have some glitter. I am awful at swatches. Somebody help me. Hold on, let me try that again. All right, let's try that again. So, here is matte. It is flat. There is no reflection in it. Here we have a more satin blush that when you turn my hand, it's got just a little bit of shimmer that catches the light. And here we have a very shimmery, glittery blush that no matter which direction I turn, you can see the shimmer coming off of it in the light. So whatever type of blush you're going to use as far as finish, that's up to you, as well as what color. Just for the sake of this video, I am going to use the middle, kind of the, you know, middle ground, the satin kind of shimmery blush, but not glittery or extreme. Like you can even see it in the pan, how this one is matte, just a little bit of reflect, and then a lot of reflect in the light. So now, let's go ahead, and on this side, we're going to apply the blush smiling. So I'm going to smile, and just for the sake of this, and what I tend to do in my normal routine, I apply blush from the cheekbone and the apple of the cheek. Some people don't. I've seen some YouTubers that like to keep their blush back here because it doesn't drag their face down. A lot of times with blush, if you go kind of past this area, if you bring it down into here, that's going to drag your face down. So actually, we'll just do it. So I'm gonna smile. And see how now it's popped up the apple of my cheek? I'm going to apply blush to that whole area. Like this whole area down to my smile line. And I'm going to bring it onto my cheekbone. And I am overdoing the color a little bit just to help you see it. But see? When I smile, it looks pretty. And then I drop my face and look, I have blush all the way down here. Because here, it looked like it was on the apple of my cheek. But now that I've dropped my face, look how low down the blush has come. So let's try this side. On this side, I'm going to apply the same blush. I'm going to leave my face just relaxed. And I'm going to kind of keep it above probably this area here. So I'm going to bring it up a little higher and lightly sweep it back on my cheekbone. Not really bringing it over into this area by my nose, and not bringing it down into my smile line too low down. And again, I'm just going to kind of pat and sweep. And when I'm bringing it back, I am kind of going in an upward motion because again, I'm following the line of that concealer in lifting my face naturally. Take a look at the difference. See how much more lifted this side of my face looks compared to this side where the blush has been brought down so far? So I'm going to, just for the sake of continuing, take a little bit of the leftover foundation on my brush, or excuse me, on my sponge, and pat over the blush. That's actually a tip for you if you do find that you've brought your blush too far down. take your sponge with any leftover product. Don't add more, but whatever's already been soaked into your sponge, and just lightly tap over, and that will allow you to kind of blend in the blush. So even though I've blended it out, you still can tell a difference where this side, it looks like this. So that's just a tip for you with blush. Also, don't forget to blend the edges. You want to kind of allow it to fade, so you don't want a harsh streak. Just take your brush after you've applied, even, you know, tap off the excess and just kind of blend over the edges so that it looks more seamless into your skin and even into your hairline. Next, let's discuss bronzer. Now, when thinking about bronzer, you want to remember that we are trying to add warmth to the face. This is especially important because bronzer is a step that you can add into your makeup routine to allow you to look kind of sun-kissed, and you can avoid sun damage or avoid the risk of getting sun damage. You know, we go to the tanning bed or people go to the beach in order to get that bronze. Well, if you find the right bronzer, you can avoid that and reduce the risk of causing yourself skin damage or potentially skin cancer. For a beginner, I'm going to recommend that you stick with a pressed powder bronzer rather than going for a cream or a gel or a liquid or anything like that. Those are definitely great. They have their place in a makeup routine and they can change the outcome of a makeup look, but for a beginner, again, I'm going to recommend staying with a pressed powder. It's going to be the bronzer that is easiest to work with. With bronzer, generally you're going for a natural look. Some people like to go very, very tan, and if you do, that's okay. For me, I want it to look natural, sun-kissed, like I was outside, but I didn't go outside because I don't want to risk skin cancer. So we're looking for a bronzer that has a warmth to it, but we're not trying to go orange. That's a very fine line that you have to kind of learn and play with bronzers to find which ones will work best with your skin tone. Everybody's skin tone is going to be different, and therefore the bronzer that works best for you is going to be different. So if you are pale like I am, you're going to look for a bronzer that is more beigey with kind of rose undertones. Same going with like the cool or the warm undertones with your foundations. If you're more olivey, you're going to go more copper. If you are darker skin tone, you can tend to pull off a much warmer, richer bronzer, and it's not going to look as orangey on you. Let me show you kind of what I mean. So here's a bronzer that you see me use a lot in my videos. This is the ColourPop Pressed Powder Bronzer in Coconut Beach. This is a really nice bronzer for pale skin people because it leans just cool enough that it doesn't look like you're trying to overdo it on pale skin. I'm going to swatch it right here. So here you can see it does have warmth. When I turn my hand, you can see a little bit of that warmth to it, but it's just cool enough that it's not overwhelming. Now, let me show you a really good example of one that I can wear, but I really have to work with it because otherwise the undertone will be too much for me. And that is the Matte Monoi Butter Bronzer that Physicians Formula recently released. I've used this a couple times, and each time in my videos, I have to be careful. Now, can you see the difference here? See how much more cool, kind of a rosy undertone this bronzer has compared to this bronzer? That bronzer looks straight up orange. And that's because I'm so fair. Someone with a deeper skin tone may be able to blend that out, and that will pull off the right tone of warmth for them. But for me, that's not the case. Also, here's another example. I have this palette from Essence. This is a really nice palette, but unfortunately the undertones in most of these bronzers is too warm for someone as fair as me. So let me swatch these for you. Here's the lightest one. See how it pulls a little bit orange? The next to lightest one I almost could pull off because it has slightly more of a rosy undertone. And then you see these darker ones, they pull a little bit more neutral, where this one I would say pulls a little bit orangey, but this one pulls more neutral. So it really is just a game of kind of playing with the bronzers, especially on your skin, to see which ones are going to work, or looking to YouTube. See what other YouTubers recommend. Find someone who you feel like has the same kind of skin tone as you. See what they like, what they don't like. And even though that may not be the perfect choice for you, it's going to at least give you a stepping stone or somewhere to start in picking a bronzer that will work. Now, just like with blushes, bronzers also come in different finishes. We have a matte bronzer, and for that example, I'm using my Milani Silky Matte. This is another nice bronzer that, just like the Colourpop bronzer, pulls cool enough that it works, but still has kind of that rosy undertone. But again, it's matte, it's flat, it's not going to have any reflect or shimmer. And one that I have that is the opposite is the L'Oreal True Match Lumi bronzer. Now, this one does pull more warm, but it's still light enough in tone that I can pull it off. But when I turn my hand, you can see the shift in the light. So what finish you're going to want in your bronzer, again, is up to you. You may want to start with a matte just because it's not going to give you any shift in the light, so you're probably going to get like the truest color out of it. So for today, I am going to go in with my Milani because it's just a tinge darker in color than the Colourpop, but still on the right undertone for me. I'm going to be using my Eco Tools blending and bronzing brush for application. The best place to test if a bronzer is going to work for you is on your jawline. Just like with foundations, you're working with this color here. Now, talking about application, a good rule of thumb when applying bronzer is to hold your brush by the back handle, because then as you are applying, you're going to be applying with light pressure. If you hold your brush right up here, then you're going to be putting a lot of pressure on the brush, and that's going to cause a lot of product to come off. With bronzer, well, with any product, it's easier to start with a little bit of product and then build to your desired finish versus starting with a lot and then trying to blend that out to make it look more seamless and lighter in application when you've already put a lot of product on. Okay, so a common tip that was seen on YouTube for quite a while was to draw the 3 on your face to show where to place bronzer. So I have the bronzer and I'm gonna hold it up top, you know? So you would place it on your forehead, bring it onto your cheekbone, and then along your jawline. So as you can see, there's a 1, 2, 3. And that was kind of the common placement for beginners to place their bronzer. So you've got this shadow, and that shadow. Now, looking straight ahead, you may think, okay, that looks all right. And it does. It doesn't look bad by any means, but I think that bronzer can be placed a little bit better. And again, the placement is going to depend on your face shape. Now, for me, for my face shape, I have a wide head, so I do want to slenderize that. So I'm going to take my bronzer, tap off the excess, hold it by the back end of the brush. I'm going to lightly tap it in this area and swirl, right, what would you call that, the temple of your forehead. And I'm not going to bring it down into the blush. I'm just going to kind of swirl it right here along the hairline. Do you see how far out this side came, to whereas this side is kind of keeping it back up here? Also, if you feel like you have a large forehead, you can bring bronzer up into this area. I just try to keep it right along the hairline. I do want to keep some of that brightness in the center of my forehead. Now, on my cheek, I'm going to bring a little bit kind of up into this area, which is also where we're going to play with contour here in a minute. And you know what? I know a lot of people don't like this, but I like to bring bronzer across my nose, especially in the spring and summer. I think it looks very natural and sun-kissed, because if I was out in the light, it's going to hit me right there. And then as far as my jawline is concerned, instead of doing this big sweep down like that, I'm going to take it, can you see kind of where I have that natural shadow? I'm going to connect it kind of behind my ear into my hairline and lightly brush it down this way. Not so much taking it here, but kind of up just a little bit. So for me, that is my preferred method of applying bronzer. I don't know if you can tell, but it still feels as though this side is lifted in comparison to this side. Lastly, we have contour. When thinking about contour, it's the opposite of bronzing and highlighting. Highlighting grabs the light and pulls forward. Bronzing adds warmth. With contour, we're trying to add shadow. And wherever we place the contour, that shadow is going to kind of push back or create depth and slenderize wherever we place the contour. Now, with the bronzer, we were looking for products with a warmth to it to give that sun-kissed glow to our skin, or that sun-kissed look. With contour, you're wanting to look for products that are cooler in undertone. maybe even a slight gray shift to them. But this can be kind of tricky. Again, you just have to play. Some products are going to lean too gray. Some products aren't going to be gray enough. They're going to look a little too bronzy in undertone. So again, you just have to play. Now for me, one that I love using is the Maybelline Master Contour V-shaped duo stick. Unfortunately, this is discontinued, but I still want to just show you the tone of the product so that you have something to kind of reference. So as you can see, I don't know if you can tell, this is slightly gray. Let me swatch it next to the bronzer that we just used. So here is the Milani bronzer. Yes, it's light, but there still is a shift of warmth to it, a little bit rosy, whereas the contour is cooler and has a gray shift to it. Another one that I tend to use a lot is from KVD. This is their pressed powder in Sombre. Now, if you take a look at this next to the Milani powder, even in the pan, you can kind of see the gray shift to it, whereas this one shifts kind of warm. So with contour, I am going to use a brush. This is also from EcoTools, the Skin Perfecting Brush, and I like the angle of it. Common places to put contour can be your temples, your cheek hollow, your cheekbone area, your jawline, your nose, your lips, whatever you like. So let's just kind of work through some of those areas. Now, on the temples, again, or anywhere you're placing contour, you're trying to create shadow. So kind of look at your face and see where the shadow naturally falls. You really want to be somewhere where the light is bright so you can see where the shadows naturally fall on your face. So again, kind of like with bronzing, a lot of times you'll see people use kind of the 3 method for contouring. So they'll kind of put some here, they'll bring it down and go straight into the hollow of their cheek. So as you can see, I can feel it there, and when I turn you can kind of see it. So I'm going to place it there, and then also right along my jawline. Now, looking straight forward, that doesn't look bad. It looks like it slenderized my face. But again, I think with refining your placement can make the application look better. So on this side, I am going to add a little bit of contour right closest to my hairline, kind of like that. Then, instead of going straight into the hollow of my cheek like I did on this side, I'm going to go slightly above, like to the tip of my ear, and kind of curve it to the corner of my mouth. But I'm not going to go all the way down. I'm going to stop kind of at the edge of my eye. So tip of my ear, just slightly above my natural hollow, stopping at the corner of my eye. And then if I want to contour my chin, I'm going to take it very lightly, kind of up a little bit like we did with the bronzer. I'm going to fluff that up just a little bit, and again, if you feel like you've got a little too much, go over it with your sponge. So there's my face. It just feels like it has chiseled my face a little bit nicer than doing it down here. It's almost dropped my jaw, or excuse me, dropped my cheeks, whereas this side has seemed to again lift naturally. Now this is kind of upping the contour game. Sometimes you'll see people contour their nose, where you just take it on the side and kind of emphasize the shadow that's already there. That again is something that you'll want to play with. Just try it before you're going to go to bed one night and you've already got your makeup on, and then you can kind of see what you like and don't like. And if you don't like it, you don't have to wear it out. You're already going to wash your face off for the night, so it's not a super big deal. So you see what I mean? I've kind of just lightly emphasized the shadow that was already cast on the sides of my nose. And then under the lip, if you put just a little bit, it will create the shadow that makes your lip look plumper. But again, those two are kind of next level as far as working with contour as a beginner. So again, here is what I wouldn't recommend necessarily, and more so the application process that I feel makes my face look the best. But again, your face shape is going to be different, and this is something that you're going to have to work on for your face to see what you like the best. Quickly, I want to jump back into highlighting, and this time we're actually going to talk about highlighters. And this palette from e.l.f., I grabbed it because there's 3 different types of highlighter in here. There's a highlighter that's pure glitter, a highlighter that is more of a natural sheen, and then a highlighter that is straight up shimmer, 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 shimmer. Here we have it. This is super, super shimmer, boom, boom, boom. This is just straight up glitter, and then this is a more natural shimmer. What would you call that? I would say that's like Bam shimmer, and that's more of a natural shimmer. So again, the finish of your highlighter is going to be up to you. You may feel that this is enough, that you've highlighted and lifted enough with just your concealer. That's totally fine. You don't have to add a powder highlight. Me, I like one, so why not go for it? So I'm going to use my Milani all over blending brush, and if you have missed any of the previous videos, I will list them for you above and below, because I do have one, I believe it's part 1, where I talk specifically about different brushes for different levels of makeup application. So for today, I'm going to go in with actually a very shimmery glittery one, so that I can show you the placement and show you what it looks like from different angles. So I'm going to go in with this shade down here. Now on this side, what we tend to see is highlight placed in what we call the C. So kind of at the arch of your brow, down and around onto the very top of your cheekbone. So the arch of my brow, I'm going to bring it around, bring it down. Okay, can you see the C that I'm talking about? And for the nose, a lot of times you'll see people they'll highlight here, leave a space, and then create kind of what you call an exclamation point. For me, I prefer to just put a little bit straight down the center all the way, and then kind of buff it in, so that when I'm looking straight on, it looks brightened, but you don't really see it. But then as I turn, you see the shift in the highlight. So again, here's kind of the C that we see a lot of times. For me, I don't want to bring the highlight too far down into this area, because you can see that my under eyes kind of sink in, and I don't want to emphasize that. So I'm going to kind of stay in this area. And again, as I did with the concealer, I'm going to bring it up a little bit and kind of an arch, very lightly applying. Then if I want any up here, I'll go above my pupil and just kind of lightly apply some. So now, here's what the highlighter looks like on this side. A little bit of sheen here, a little bit of sheen here, whereas on this side it's like, well, boom. Also, for me, because I don't really have a accentuated Cupid's bow, I like to take just a little above the bow in my lip to give that a little bit of sheen as well, because then the sheen brings that forward, and then this naturally will kind of recede. Also, sometimes people will put a highlight under their brow. That's totally fine. It's up to you. Again, whatever you put light on is going to be brought forward. Whatever you put darkness on or shadow is going to recede back. So for me, I don't personally care for the C, and also when I turn forward, it almost casts a little bit of a grayness here, and I don't want that. I want to reserve the gray for my contouring. So when you look for highlighter, you do kind of want to consider what shade you're going to be using. For me, I like to stay with kind of the lighter whites, the very pale pinks, the very champagne-y light golds. Like if I went in with this gold, it would be way too dark. It would cast an odd shadow on my face. So again, that's something that you can play with and find what shade of highlighter works best for your skin tone. And there you have it. So that is part 4 of this beginner's guide. So again, we covered blush, bronzer, contour, and highlight. So thank you for watching this video. Let me know down below. Was anything helpful? Is there anything I missed that you still need covered? What do we have after this? I don't know. I have to sit down and look and see if there's any more parts to this beginner's guide that I need to add. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you will like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.